Slacker podcast is BYOT. Bring your own tacos.
Dick swinging.
You're listening to American Slacker Podcast.
We can say fuck.
With Matthew Gertz and Jesse Landers.
I don't care, I've been smoking, this is cool. That's a decent amount of sausage. This man needs a doctor! Yeah, I just hope they're tasty. What's up with these clowns, man? Cut the lights and went through people's pockets. Don't you point that at each other. Let them smoke a little. You need to step it up to that point. We're not gonna lead with the. We're not gonna lead with that.
We're actually in the middle of shooting a feature film, and we were in a back alley in this city called Tarpon Springs. And for this particular film, we're using real guns. So it's just a small little .38 handgun. But regardless, there's rules you gotta play by. Even if the guns are fake, you're supposed to technically have off-duty police officer on set.
Okay.
So in this particular scene, we had a guy try to assault one of the main characters in a back alley, and just right when we were going to shoot, there was a wooden fence right next to us that came crashing down, and there was a very, very high crackhead that broke into our set and caused a pretty crazy commotion.
Oh,
It
wow.
was quite interesting. Yeah, he just came on, and I can just tell right away. And it was. I mean, I can laugh about it now because, at the moment there it wasn't funny. But now thinking about it, especially when we talk about it amongst ourselves, he came right up to my face, and my instinct was from my all the years I worked in corporate America, and the first thing I say to him is, can I help you? So he was just mumbling some stuff. Yeah, my customer service instinct kicked in. Is can I help you? And it was 3:30 in the morning, and the police officer was actually in the building where we were at, maybe about 25 feet away, but he couldn't see anything because he was right on the other side of the wall where we're at. And I just called for him, and the officer came right out, and just with his presence, he actually just kept walking towards the guy, and the guy kept walking back, and he ended up going to the other side of the alley, and he radioed in backup, and there was 4 police cars that came, and they were they were maybe about another 20 feet away, and it just held us up for about an hour because the radios were going off, so we couldn't shoot. The police lights were all over the place, so we couldn't shoot. So we actually got held up to about 4:30 in the morning, and so we were backed up by an hour because of it. But that was probably one of the weirdest things that ever happened to us on set. Literally, that fence came crashing down. The dude was like a zombie, just coming right on set, and I just kind of pushed everybody back, make sure everybody was safe, and this dude just came right up to me, mumbling some stuff, and I just very politely called for the police officer, and he just came out and he just took care of it. But everything ended up being real safe and calm, so it was cool, but it was still a scary situation. But now we all just kind of make the story bigger than what it is. There was an actor that was on set, and, he was, trying to walk past me. I'm like, where are you going? And he had his chest out. He's like, well, I know karate. I'm like, man, get back in there. What are you going to do, dude?
I'm going to take him down.
Exactly. So I was like, what are you going to do? So get back in there, man. This is real life right now,
Right? The record button is off.
God, I'm just imagining Dave Chappelle's character Tyrone crashing through the fence I'm here for auditions, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Y'all got any roles?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we were thinking. We actually did a few takes prior to it, and the girl was screaming for help. So I don't know if that drew the attention of this guy walking down the alley.
So he's a good Samaritan, just trying to you know.
Hey, wanted to lend a hand.
I heard a woman screaming.
Yeah, he wanted to sweep her off her feet or whatever. So when he came, we would just kind of make sure everything was safe, and it was actually just this whole movie itself has been a whole experience. We've had quite a few different stories of weird stuff happening with it. On every shoot that we go on, there's always something going on, but certainly with this film, there's actually been a lot of weird stuff going on there was another one with another drug reference. Some other druggie came up to us. So it's kind of a rough part of the town, but we kind of try to handle it as best we could.
It's not really something you pencil into the production schedule, though. It's like,
exactly.
All right, call at 9. We start rolling at 10. Crackhead at 11.
Exactly. Crackhead crashes fence down at 11 and comes right on the set.
Oh man, glad you're here to provide these crazy stories about crackheads crashing your sets.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here on American Slacker Podcast. As always, I'm Matthew.
And I'm Jesse, and today we're joined by our guest.
Hi, my name is David Melendez, and I am the owner and producer and director of an independent studio called Studio House Pictures, based in Florida.
And David caught our eye on Instagram. The production stills that you've been putting up from Misty Blue Lane. It's I'm like a camera and movie buff myself, and Matt's into photography as well. So a lot of what you put up, these red cameras you're shooting with, all the cool stills.
Hell yeah.
It really caught our attention.
Oh yeah, well that's cool, man. I mean, actually, I try to post some cool, behind the scenes production photos from various productions that we have going on. Obviously, the one you mentioned, Misty Blue Lane, is a feature film, so that's pretty dominant on there right now. But we have quite a few others going on as well. But yeah, I try to put them on. And what's interesting with the Instagram, we've been getting a lot of love on there, especially from a lot of inspiring filmmakers. So
nice.
I get a ton of private messages from all over the world with people saying, thanks for the cool pictures, and they ask a lot of questions. So I try to be as interactive as I can on there, as much as possible. So it feels good putting that stuff on there, and it's not. I guess a lot of the people are not looking at it as like we're trying to show off or anything. It's just something that they look at and they're like, oh, that's all cool stuff, and we kind of want to mimic that and either work with you or kind of have our own thing going on. So it's been a nice last couple months going on there and just posting all this stuff.
Absolutely. It's a really supportive medium. That's what I've found.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, we also are on Facebook. Unfortunately, Facebook has been trying to monetize a lot of their business pages. I try not to post too much on my own personal page. I try to keep that for just close friends and family.
Yep.
But even the last few months, I'll sometimes will post some stuff about our films on my personal page, and it gets a lot of love. But on our business account, I'll post something and it'll hit like 2 or 3 people, and then I'll immediately get a message from Facebook saying, hey, if you drop like $10, we'll show this to 25,000 people.
Right.
And it wasn't like that a few years ago, so it's unfortunate. But then now we're on Instagram, and Instagram just put it on there, and it's just in trying to not trying. I mean, it's actually pretty easy finding other people in the same field, and just following them, and they follow back, and we've just been having some nice success for it.
It's great when you interact with people that are doing the sort of same thing you are. You're able to sort of bounce ideas off of each other, and like you said, get inspired.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of people who really, there's even been a handful of people who have really like pouring their hearts out on there, saying like, I wish I can do what you guys are doing and stuff like that. And what I respond back with is like, hey, you know what? I mean, we're just like you guys. I mean, we started off with, all this equipment looks fancy, but I told them that you don't need all this fancy equipment.
Especially these days.
Oh, absolutely. Even like the expensive stuff is like, it's crazy how inexpensive it is today. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I mean, like 10 years ago, you probably couldn't get away with like not dropping like $100,000 in just movie gear just to get out and just start making films. But today, you can shoot movies on your phone. So that's kind of the stuff I've been responding back with people, like what's holding you back. That the only thing that's holding you back is you. So that's usually my advice to most people that are responding back and just saying like, just stuff like kind of applauding all the stuff that we have. And I keep telling them like, look, man, all that stuff is just almost like an illusion. I mean, you can just shoot on your phone, or you can pick up a older DSLR. It doesn't really matter what your equipment is what's more important is just like what's the story that you're trying to tell. You know,
very true.
And then just make something. I always tell everybody, just make something. Like, stop talking and just make it. You know, like, and all the can'ts that you keep pushing out, I just usually tell them, it's like, you know, all those can'ts is just yourself.
Exactly.
You know, so you can shoot a movie.
You can be your own biggest cheerleader or your own biggest barrier.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even back then, before I got into filmmaking, I was always like, you know, I live in Florida. Florida's not a very, you know, it's not like New York or L.A. or even like Georgia. I mean, Georgia's become like the Hollywood of the East Coast these days.
Florida's got a Hollywood.
Yeah, it's Hollywood, Florida. But
yeah.
It's not like Hollywood.
Yeah, no way. There's a lot of old people there. But yeah, I mean, even when I first started, it's like, how do you get into it? And I usually just tell people, you know, you just got to try to find what you like about it, because there's just so many hats in the movie making process. And just to give you a little background for myself, I mean, I got into it just writing. You know, I found the passion for writing, and I figured, like, you know, with writing, I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to buy a whole lot of gear. You know, if you really want to get all that cheap, you can just pretty much write with a pen and a piece of paper. But
yeah, right.
Writing software is pretty cheap, and if you got some good stories and you don't know how to write or properly write it, then find somebody that can write it. So there's really no excuse. And then just as long as you have a good central base of what kind of story you want to tell, there's other people out there that will help you. So
just got to reach out there.
Message. Absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly, networking.
Definitely.
Now, did you grow up in Florida? Has that always been your home, like, stomping grounds?
Now, I consider Florida my home. I actually came to Florida from New York. I was actually born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, wow, okay.
And by the time it's been so long, I think it was like in junior high school, like first starting junior high school, we moved down. My mom and dad retired, and we just followed the herd and came down to Tampa, and I've been here ever since. And that was like back in '87. So yeah, I've been here for quite some time. So I consider Tampa and Florida my home.
Okay. And have you found, like, I know with a film group and a crew, you're like, it's not like you said, there's a lot of hats to wear. It doesn't come down to one person, and sometimes the biggest struggle can be finding that group. Have you always sort of had a central crew?
Yeah, well, what I did was I actually went to film school. There was a small technical college in Tampa, and really, like, you know, film school is not really something that, believe it or not, I wouldn't even recommend. I mean, because it's so expensive.
Yep.
But really, the if you want to learn filmmaking, like film school and all that, they'll just kind of teach you the basic technique, and like the do's and don'ts. But really, probably the best value you get out of a film school is meeting other filmmakers, and that's really where I met a lot of other people that love making films. So like 4 or 5 of them, we're all pretty tight. So we stayed in contact over the years, and we just worked together. But even these days, it's actually getting more and more where you can just learn filmmaking off the internet. So I mean, it's like I said, if I would recommend film school if you could afford it, and you'll really meet some good networking, and you meet some really good people in networking, and some of these schools will actually help you find work. Outside of that, I mean, you could really learn filmmaking on your own from either reading some books or, like I said, I mean, with YouTube these days, I mean, people are posting a lot of content.
Hell, you can learn
online.
You can learn anything on YouTube these days. We've
definitely
covered stories where, what was it, Matt? The kids.
Oh, yeah, like an 8-year-old kid learned how to drive and decided to go get to a restaurant. And he did a pretty good job, actually. He just got caught, like, because of people at the restaurant.
And he said he learned to drive because he was watching YouTube videos on how to do it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, as long as you have the passion, I could imagine that, yeah, you could easily, between books and, you know, videos online, learn the basics, like you're saying. But the networking part is probably the most difficult. Like
yeah, the networking part and really building a bond. I mean, but even these days, that's even getting more and more where people are not going to film school, just getting together with, like, making film clubs or whatever, or just trying to poke around your local community, and finding other filmmakers, or even in the same genre as filmmaking, like photography. because they're different, but they just kind of marry each other, because like about 5 or 6 years ago, really, the photography world has blended in, as far as equipment goes, has blended into the filmmaking world.
Yep.
So even in that, you find other people that have that same passion, and you can just kind of, build a group. And what I always tell people is just like, just go out and just make a movie. It doesn't matter if it's bad. Really,
learn from
making
your mistakes,
a bad
right?
movie is better than making no movie. And really, probably one of the biggest pet peeves I have personally is just people who talk a lot and they don't do shit. Oh, sorry, I don't know if you can say
No,
this.
yeah. You can say
You can say anything you want,
say
man.
shit.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of my biggest pet peeves, man, is like people who don't do shit and they just do a lot of talking about like what they're going to do, or they kind of talk about like what other people should be doing, and then they don't do anything. So my biggest thing
They're
is
not producing any content at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just get involved and just do anything. It's like you're not. I guess what a lot of people get stuck at is they think that even if it's a 5-minute film, they think it has to be the best 5-minute film in the world. And it's like, if it's your first film, it's your first film. You just got to keep doing it, and then just learn from it, and then just keep duplicating that. Don't duplicate your mistakes, but just keep duplicating how you're just going to keep creating content.
Right. It's crazy to think that what you make as your first and only thing would be perfect. That comes from making mistake after mistake after mistake to eventually know how to do it perfectly.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I mean, you'll be surprised. I mean, there's people that I know that they'll sit on scripts. They're like, well, it's not perfect yet. I'm like, it'll never be perfect. And I know that feeling. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of times, I mean, if you read about, your favorite films, like the Hollywood films or, popular independent films that we all love, if you just read about it, even those films, they don't, if somebody gave you that opportunity to keep trying to make it perfect, it would never be finished.
Right.
It would never be finished. It would never be finished written. It would never be finished being shot. It would never be finished editing. I mean, eventually somebody would shut you down because it's costing somebody else's money. But
right.
I'm just talking about just the basics of it. It's just you can stay on it forever. And I fell into that also, even like in editing projects. It's just like if there was no deadline, we're like, well, let's try this, let's try that. And you'll just be there forever. So I always just tell people, it's just like, you know what? Write something. Even if it's a few minutes, I don't care what it is. Just get together with somebody, and if you don't know how to shoot, if you don't know how to write, find people that can.
Or get on YouTube.
Oh yeah, get on. Yeah, exactly.
And I mean,
an entire medium
with writing, especially, like you can't be married to your idea of like this is perfect, nothing can change. Like even if you came up with the perfect script, you're gonna get out into the production like location and realize like something doesn't quite match. And there's going to need to be revisions or script edits or like a scene added or taken away. That tends to be the nature of the business, it seems.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, what a lot of people don't realize is that in filmmaking, there's really 3 major changes that happens in your story. It's going to change in your writing, right? Because when you write your first draft, your second draft, or however how many drafts you change until you get into production. And when you get into production, which is your shooting production, it's going to change again. I don't care how perfect you are. It's going to change again. Whether it's your location, whether somebody doesn't show up, there's so many factors in there where you're going to end up changing your story. And then probably the biggest changes that are going to happen is going to be in editing. So the editing part is just where it can change again. I mean, I say it can, but most likely something will change. It just doesn't work in post. So if you work with somebody that's editing your film, it's just like, this will work better over here, or let's move it over. You know what I mean? So it drastically changes 3 times, at least. And even in the same concept goes with big Hollywood movies. It's the same thing. I mean, you can read about all this trivia, even if you just go on IMDb.com. You can read about trivia and all kinds of films, and you'd be surprised from like what actors were considered to take roles of movies that we love today. And you think about like, wow, that actor doesn't fit that. You know what I mean? But they consider that. So things are constantly changing,
right,
all the time throughout the whole production process.
Absolutely. It's just kind of how it ends up turning out at the end of the day. It's kind of like a game of telephone.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Studio House Pictures. When did you start that? What was the birth year of Studio House Pictures?
I got I got really serious into filmmaking in 2011. So this will be our, sixth year now. In January of 2011. So yeah, so it'll be 6 years we're in 2017. So yeah, I mean, I've worked on indie films and done other indie films prior to 2011, but I registered the company and decided to all right, now let's try to monetize with this business of Studio House Pictures and making indie film. I mean, my main passion is to make films, but everybody out there that's an independent filmmaker, making movies doesn't make money. Just in a nutshell. Actually, most people will tell you you're crazy if you're getting into making independent films.
Right.
So we mix it up. So we, to monetize it, we'll make music videos, we'll make commercials.
Nice.
Just all kinds of stuff to bring it in. But really, the true passion is making films. But another advice I give people, regardless of what it is that you work on, whether it's a music video, a documentary, or a commercial, you should always treat all those as films, because everybody has a story to tell. Everybody, and a lot of times people don't think about that. So if you're making a commercial for to advertise a product, there's a story to tell in there. It all depends on what the client's story, what do they want to tell to their audience. Because that's really the basis of it. Is when you make a video, you put a camera together and you put a crew together and you shoot whatever it is that you're shooting. You have to think about your audience. So regardless if it's a commercial, music video, if it's like I said, if it's a music video, who does that artist want to reach out to? You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh yeah, I just want to get signed with my music, and that's fantastic. But how are you going to do that? Like, who's your audience? So that's usually the basics that we use on anything that we do. So on the Instagram account, I try to mix it up. But like I said, since Misty Blue Lane has been it's just been our biggest project that it's just dominated the Instagram page right now. But there is a few other things that are on there as well, including some commercial shoots. Actually, we just got back from doing a pretty big commercial, actually series of commercials, about a week and a half ago. So we got to go out and state for it.
That's a good way to subsidize the dream, which is to make the independent film.
Yeah, definitely.
Now I'm looking at the Studio House Pictures website right now, and so over the course of 6 years, you've put out at least 12 short films here.
Those are the ones that I've put up, for trailers on them. We actually had just recently, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we just signed a distribution deal with a company out in Los Angeles that wanted to pick up 5 of our short films and to make it into a compilation package.
Okay, and for like DVD release type of thing, or to networks, or?
Yeah, well, right now the big thing is video on demand. So I mean, in the contract, it does state that there is an option for DVD. So it's just pretty much what medium they feel they can push it through. And these days, I mean, really,
Netflix,
the studios,
I'm guessing.
Yeah, they're trying to get away from all types of hard media with Blu-ray and DVD.
There's a lot less cost when you don't have to produce the physical disc.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole production process to produce a DVD. It's not even funny. Well, it depends how in depth you want to get into it. And I'm sure you guys have gone through it too. You go to the store, you buy a DVD of a movie you really like, and it's just like a shitty version. Like they'll just have the movie on there, and then that's it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
No cool menus, no cool artwork,
no extras.
Exactly. So, but yeah, that's an option. I mean, it just, it's worldwide distribution. So there's so many different markets in the world. So there might be some markets that like, all right, well, yeah, we want DVD, so they'll go ahead and do a DVD for it, or Blu-ray or whatever. But really, video on demand is really taking over that whole medium.
That's like revolutionary in terms of being able to for indie films to just go straight to people at their home through something like a medium like Netflix.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, these days now it's actually really tough because it's become a buyer's market actually when it comes to films, because of the market is so saturated because the technology has reduced in cost, that there's so much content being made. I mean, don't get me wrong, they all want content, but now they can get more and more picky on what content they want to put on, whatever medium, whether it's Netflix or iTunes or whatever. And then there's so many different outlets now that you could even do self-distribution. I mean, Amazon offers a self-distribution path that you can get into. So you really can get your project out there if you can't get through an actual distribution company, or if you feel like you're going to get screwed by a distribution company, you could actually just go through self-distribution. But with that, just comes with a whole other beast in in your marketing strategy, and you have to put some money in all that. So it's
another hat you're going to have to wear too.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you'd have to handle all the advertising and getting the people to actually watch it as well.
Yeah, that's the thing, and me personally, I've been criticized for that. Is I'm not very good at marketing myself or marketing my company, and I just don't even think about it. You know what I mean? So even big brands that they'll hire major agencies to help them push their brand. There's no comparison for what we do, but at the same time, if you look at it at a small scale, we have social media out there to help. But even pushing social media, all these social media platforms have been trying to monetize that. You know what I mean? They're like, all right, you want to post on here? Yeah, we'll put it on there, but you got to have to pay a few bucks to just get it advertised.
Yeah, reach the mass.
It's hard to get those organic views.
Exactly. So if you do a self-distribution deal, if you're able to get it in through Amazon Prime, which they shouldn't give you any issues. Unless you're doing stuff that's not, as long as it's not porn, pretty much. You can pretty much distribute anything on Amazon Prime. But the thing is once it's on
that's pretty
there,
cool. I know people. Yeah. There's some big series on Amazon Prime that are only available there, so that kind of puts you in a market with people that are going to be able to see your stuff.
Yeah, definitely. But again, it's just one of those things where if you don't have a marketing strategy behind it, like myself, for example, I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? Am I going to put a budget together for a few $100 and just blast it over Facebook or whatever? So that's why a distributor, that's what their expertise is getting your movie out there and pushing it through various mediums. But don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking Amazon Prime. That's great. You just have to make sure that you're good at marketing your film as well, or whatever project, whether it's a short film or a music video you want to put on there. You could get it on there, but you just have to make sure you have a good marketing strategy plan behind it.
Right. And that's the most important thing, because if you're going to be dumping that kind of money in, you got to see the return on it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And a lot of times, I've seen the payouts for self-distributing on Amazon Prime. Most people that do it on self-distribution, they're not looking to monetize. They just want the product out there and just get their name out there, tell their friends, and hopefully it'll just go viral in their own sense on Prime, and it gets noticed by the right person. That's really what the ultimate goal is to get it out and have as many people as you can watch it, and then hopefully it'll hit someone that can make a difference, whether it's a producer or somebody that sparks an interest. There's studios out there right now, and there's companies with money that hire people just to scrub the internet to look for content, to look for filmmakers. It's actually pretty crazy. So I believe that there was actually a film, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. It's called Lights Out. I don't know if you guys have heard of that film or not. Yeah, Well, that film was started off as a short film that went on YouTube by those filmmakers.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
If you Google, or if you just go on YouTube and look up Lights Out, original short, it's a short film, and it's just a woman going to bed, and the lights in the other room keep turning on, and she goes to shut them off, and she turns them on, and next thing you know, there's just this creepy face that pops up of a woman right by her bed when she turns the light on and turns it off. That was essentially Lights Out, and then it went viral, and someone said, hey, let's reach out to these guys, and next thing you know, they're making a feature film. So same thing with
that's crazy. I didn't even know that.
So somebody else took the vision and turned it into their own and expanded.
Well, they actually took the same filmmaker that made the film, and they
just
worked with them to make a feature film.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's one of those needles in the haystacks. But you know what? You're not going to hit unless you play, right? So it's a good thing to get your stuff out there. You know, even if it's that. I mean, for myself, like I've never released any of the films that I've worked on the internet. I mean, I did. There was 2 of them that I had that were on the internet that they're part of that compilation. But I just never had it out there because I never had a plan of like, all right, let me see how many hits I can get on this thing to see if it'll get picked up. So I essentially wanted to get something packaged together, and I mean, there's some of these short films that I worked on that are on this compilation. I mean, some of them are dated back to 2011. So that's how long that I've had them sitting there, just kind of waiting, to try to brand it all together as one. And when the opportunity struck and somebody came across the website and they're like, oh, you got a lot of films on there, what's it about? And so I started communicating with them back and forth, and it's like, if you guys distribute shorts, I got shorts for you guys to screen, and that's basically how that happened, which we're really excited about. But at the same time, it's just kind of a scary thing, you know what I mean? At the same time, thinking like, how much now more and more people are going to be watching these, so it's you kind of like on the spotlight.
That's crazy to think that just something like a little short on YouTube is all you need to like get that kind of exposure.
Oh yeah, the same thing happened with it's a very popular movie called Saw, which I know you guys know Saw. Saw I think was released in 2004, and the director and the actually one of the actors that was in the movie, it was a producer on that film, and they actually tried to shop that through Hollywood, just traditionally, and they actually ended up making a short film. It was a little different. They didn't blast it out on the internet, but they used it as part of their packaging to kind of give the vision for Saw, and someone picked it up, and it's a multi-billion-dollar franchise now. So yeah, you just got to play to to kind of stay in the game.
That's all you need these days. It's like you said, all you got to do is do it and like stop talking about it.
Yeah,
put your stuff out there.
Exactly. You just do it. I mean, even like I'm not like me. That everybody has their own different personality. I mean, I personally don't like putting my films on the internet. I mean, I just think the internet it's so oversaturated, and it kind of contradicts what I'm saying. You got to put yourself out there. But I just kind of had a different strategy where, I have trailers out there, and I got my website and all this other stuff. So if someone comes knocking, then it's like, here, this is what we got. Are you interested? And it actually did pay off. I mean, they didn't pick them all up, but they picked up 5, which is not bad, considering
That's awesome.
How many we had. And then they're like, yeah, we want to put this together as a compilation. And for me personally, the last question that I had for them was, how much is this gonna, how much money is that gonna bring in? Because really, the opportunity I'm looking at is to open that door into getting the projects submitted or not submitted, but exposed. So once they're exposed, and hopefully the right people see it, and they're like, hey, can you work on something like this? And it gives you the opportunity to work on something bigger and better.
Right. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You can't be focused on the money is nice.
Yeah.
Once it does come in, you can do a lot more with it.
Absolutely.
But those, like what you were saying before with film school, it's the networking that's the most important part.
Yeah, that's why. Even if you Google film school, I mean, there's a lot of blogs and a lot of articles that are really talk about like, don't go to film school because it's uberly expensive, and for me personally, I think if you could afford it, it's fantastic because they do teach you the basics, and they teach you the structure, and they teach you. I mean, they teach you how to make a film. They don't teach you how to have talent. I mean, that's you can't go to film school if you got no talent. Then it's so yeah, exactly. So if you can get that structure in, and you can figure out where kind of you fit in the process, it's great. Yep. But like I said, the biggest value is getting to know other people. And if you look back into all your favorite filmmakers, most of them like have somebody that they've always worked with, or at least for the most part of their career. Either it's a director and a DP have always known each other for a while, so they work together on a lot of films. And I mean, even the biggest filmmakers like Spielberg, Kubrick, a lot of them used. Kubrick's kind of a whole different story. He's kind of like a madman. But Spielberg, they kind of use kind of similar. If you look up on IMDb, a lot of the DPs work with the same director, so it's usually they met somewhere, and so that's the beauty about film school is like, you know, they kind of force you into these teams, and you start building relationships with people, and you learn how to work with them, and then you usually kind of stick with that, which is nice. So
you even see that in like larger Hollywood settings, like what comes to mind is like Adam Sandler's Happy Madison productions, or Judd Apatow's productions where he ends up using Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd.
Oh yeah,
a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people don't get that. Like, I mean, people just I hear a lot of comments like that I get told about, like, why does the director use the same person? It's like, well, they probably have a great.
It's like, why wouldn't you?
A great working relationship, and and the movies are still making a ton of money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, if you look at Scorsese films, you know, back in the 70s and 80s, I mean, he used the shit out of Robert De Niro. Now he's using the shit out of Leonardo DiCaprio. So, and you're still watching the movie. So it's like, why are you knocking on that? So you still like the movie. And so it's just it's very, very important to have that chemistry, whether it's with actors or it's with crew. So I mean, don't get me wrong, I worked with a lot of new people. I like working with a lot of new people, but really, like, the central core of our team is usually like the same, like 3 to 5 people, including myself. And not knocking at anybody, but it's just a thing where it's like they kind of get the madness instead of like, you're gonna get in the shit with me now, right? So they kind of understand. We all understand how we communicate with each other, and then if there's always gonna be some type of friction or something like that, we know that afterwards it's, you know, we can get over it over a beer later. You know, it's not a big deal. So you just kind of get caught in the moment. But, you know, with somebody new, they might not understand that. So you have to kind of gel that in.
Definitely. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, do you have any? Who would you say are your influences if you had to pick directorial wise?
The biggest influence for me was always John Carpenter, who created Halloween.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very
Ever
nice.
since I was a kid, the original Halloween influenced me into just loving movies, and then just growing up, I watched a lot of campy horror films. But really, the John Carpenter films, I've always, even before I knew I was a fan of John Carpenter, I was like, as a kid, I'd be like, oh, there's a movie called Escape from New York, and then you find out, it's the same guy who made Halloween. And then now, the older I got and the more and more I got more passionate into filmmaking, and that goes with a lot of directors that I like, but you get to see the same style throughout all their films. Even if the movies are drastically different, you can still kind of see the same kind of style. And then also on newer films that are out now, that you know that they're influenced by all the directors, you can see how they were influenced as well. So for me it's always been John Carpenter. I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I love John Carpenter films, and they're like my favorite. So.
Which makes sense, because in a lot of your movies, it's definitely a horror motif. I've always been a big fan of The Thing.
Yeah, and The Thing wasn't even it wasn't well received when it came out. Now it's a cult movie, so
cult classic without a doubt. Yeah. Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh yeah, big time.
There you go. Yeah, there's some weird effects in that one.
Yeah.
So John Carpenter is a big influence of yours, and would you say horror is like where you would pin yourself if you had to pick a corner?
No, really, for me, that's the one thing too. Like, a lot of the marketing and the posters look like it's all horror. We actually have only made one horror film.
Okay.
Everything else, I'm actually more into like dark psychological thrillers.
Okay.
And actually, this new movie, Misty Blue Lane, is actually a crime drama, which is another genre that I really like. But I don't mind it either way. I mean, I love horror films also, so I got nothing. But I really do pin myself into like the human psyche and the brain and you know how kind of wacky people are and stuff like that. Like one of my favorite movies is Taxi Driver. And Taxi Driver, that is just a perfect film.
He goes nuts in that movie.
And showing the slow, the slow decline of somebody's mental state, just going cuckoo. That's probably one.
And Harvey Keitel was a piece of shit.
Yeah,
in that movie.
He was the pimp. Yeah.
Jodie Foster.
Yeah, she was I think she was only like 14 years old in that movie too.
Yeah, that raised a lot of hell when that came out.
Oh yeah, big time. So, So yeah, I mean, I like, for me, I like psychological thrillers and crime dramas are really what I enjoy.
Any that you've seen recently or gone to the movies or gone out of the way to watch on like Netflix or anything?
What have I seen? Actually, no, nothing recent. I know, like, my wife and I, we actually sat down and went through like our whole DVD collection and Blu-ray collection. We actually watched Capote, which is a 2008 movie with Seymour Hoffman. So that was like a crime drama, more drama film. I kind of enjoy films like that, but really, I mean, and then even like a few days prior to that at home, I watched this film from the 80s called The Exterminator, which I watched like 100 times. And I watched it again. It's like one of those, it's just another cult classic film that they try to rip off of Death Wish and some other, what do you call it, vigilante type style movies. That I'm
looking at the poster for The Exterminator. He's got like a motorcycle helmet and a flamethrower.
Yeah, that movie was big time controversial when it came out. So I kind of grew up around in the 80s with those movies that I really enjoyed. So, and I don't know what possessed me to watch The Exterminator the other day. I was like, I saw it and let me just pop it in and watch it.
The tagline on the poster: "In war, you have to kill to stay alive. On the streets of New York, it's often the same." Yeah,
exactly. And what's interesting about that movie too is like, in one of the TV spots for it to market the film, they made a reference to something like he's not a taxi driver and he has no death wish. He's just a man that was pushed over the edge. So you could tell they were just trying to compete with, like, Death Wish is probably the most famous vigilante movie ever. And then Taxi Driver is another one where it's just some wacko just decided to, like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and shoot up the world. You know what I mean?
Descent into madness kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So The Exterminator came out and it was just kind of like this exploitative type of film. But I don't know. It didn't do very well. But actually it did do very well, but not like Death Wish and like, some of these other vigilante films that come out. So.
Some films will do really well in theaters, but then they don't really withstand the test of time.
Yeah, and vice versa. I think Matt had brought up The Thing. The Thing was very bombed, and it actually almost killed Carpenter. Actually, killed Carpenter's career in the United States.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was his biggest. I mean, I'm filled with so much useless trivia, so it's not even funny.
Was it too gory for the audience?
It was just, what happened was, I think it was released in '82, and what happened was it was released in the same time as E.T. So you had two alien movies, right?
Damn.
And one was
that's a tough break.
Yeah. So it just completely bombed at the box office, and it made people angry. And plus, it's different times in the '80s than it is now. But over the years,
E.T. wouldn't do that.
Exactly.
He's a nice alien.
Yeah. So the E.T. became like the biggest smash hit in the world at the time, and then you got this movie with, a guy's head turning into a spider.
That's crazy.
I was listening to a podcast with Guy Ritchie, and he was talking about that exact instance in today's, filmmaking world. It's like you really have to watch where your like release date is because of like opposing films, man.
Oh yeah.
It could literally break your film. And with all the time and like money you put into it, like it's crazy.
It is crazy
because I think he's working on Aladdin now. That's his next film. Is actually a live action Aladdin, and he's like all worried about when that's coming out because I think there's another DC movie coming out at the same time, so he had to push it like a month or something. Yeah,
it's become so crowded now. I mean, now it's like there's not enough time in the whole year. Like if you think about it, like there's only 52 weeks in the year, which 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it's like, oh, we're just going to release our biggest movies in the summer. Now they still do that, but now it's just like, all right, what's coming out that same week? So it's this whole like war room of like when they're going to, even movies get shelved and they wait to release them sometimes because they don't want to compete against, other big movies that are coming out. It's quite fascinating.
And often it'll be movies that are coming out from the same company that produced the movie they're shelving.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yep. Yeah. It's like playing. It's like a chess match.
Cannibalizing their own profits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all quite fascinating. That's all the business side, which kind of like what we talked about earlier about marketing your own film, and it's just a whole other animal to deal with when it comes to the business side of filmmaking. And I mean, like personally for myself, like I don't I'm not into marketing. I know it has to be done, but marketing and then even doing this distribution deal with this company, it was just like it just completely takes you out of the creative process. It just has to do with contracts and this whole different world of stuff, and that's why, I mean, if you really like to read about the history of different, especially your favorite movies, they all have a quite fascinating story. I mean, even with this new Wonder Woman movie that just came out, which I saw yesterday, which I thought was really good, the director in that film, like, she hasn't made a feature film in like 14 years.
Oh wow!
And the last movie she made was Monster with Charlize Theron.
That was a really good one too.
Yeah,
I watched that last night.
Oh, wow,
really?
That's
Are you
interesting.
kidding?
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Lean Warnos with Christina Ricci in it as her sidekick.
Yeah, it's a really
I'm like
good.
in a serial killer craze right now. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I do the same thing. I go into like these different modes. I guess that's why maybe I fell into watching the Exterminator the other day. I'm like, oh, let me see if I get into this and watch them again. But yeah, the same thing. Like that.
That's crazy.
That director made
13 years.
Yeah, she made Mommy. She's worked in the biz. Like if you look her up, I think she's done a few episodes of Entourage, and a few other episodes of different. Yeah, just some other stuff here and there. And then I think there was a time like a few years ago where she was offered to do Wonder Woman, but it didn't work out. It's just a mess with these movies that they decide to pull them, especially in the DC Comics world right now. They're kind of scrambling, trying to match with Marvel. So she was in the picture, then she was out, and then 13, 14 years later, here she is, and she's directing, probably their best.
And breaking records on top of it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's probably their best, as far as DC, is probably their best film as far as like financially how much they're making.
I keep hearing about Wonder Woman. All I'm hearing is great things about it. Like every podcast is talking about it. Like every personality is talking about it.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I mean, for me, like a lot of the people that I know locally, like I've heard some mixed reviews, but it's been more leaning towards the positive. And then I wanted to see it, so I went to see it. I mean, I enjoyed it. So I mean, and I'm not even a really big fan of superhero movies, but I mean that's kind of the fad going on now, or what it has been for the last few years, and it just looks like it's never going to stop. So, but I don't knock films out there. I think it's great. It's just they can just release anything, and we all have a choice. You want to see it or not, and go see it. If not, then hey.
I have a feeling it's going to be like Game of Thrones, where they eventually hit the wall, where they've used up all the material. Now they got to start writing new stuff, and that might be where it starts to falter.
Yep.
Yeah, but you know what? There's so much awesome content in comics. I mean, that's why in a lot of these movies, like I wish they would spill more from a lot of this content that's coming from the comics, but because there is a different formula in filmmaking, and then obviously is they need to make money, so they try to appeal to a grand audience, and then there's also an international audience they have to appeal to. But really now, I mean, if Netflix is picking up Marvel, a lot of they picked up Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, and they picked up so many.
Luke Cage, perfect, man.
Yeah. Jessica Jones was awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I think there's an entire gold mine of if they're not going to release in the movies, Netflix or whoever is just going to keep trying to pick them up. So
they're going to dig down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, dude, I'm looking forward to the Venom with Tom Hardy. Like, that's going to be dope.
Yeah, I heard about that too.
Will be really good.
Yeah,
that's going to be a solid movie.
I hope.
I have a feeling we're gonna once they do get through all these little side characters like all the ones past Ant-Man, they're gonna end up start doing like
Paul Rudd.
They're gonna no Paul Rudd's great, but they're gonna have to tap the well all the way back to like ancient Greece or something. We're gonna see like Greco-Roman stories being welled up after these comics.
God. Yeah, I don't know, man. They'll probably just keep rebooting. I mean, it was just so funny when I heard, "Hey, Spider-Man's getting rebooted." I'm like, didn't they just make that like a few years ago?
I do
That's
like
because of Tobey Maguire, though.
Yeah.
Come on,
I do like the new Spider-Man. I have to say the new actor that they chose for it.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield. Yeah.
Oh
no,
the
the other one,
the newer one.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, 3.
What?
There's another new Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But Jesus, I can't keep up.
I can't keep up.
He's a young British kid, but I like that Spider-Man's not being played by someone who's like almost in their 30s. Spider-Man to me is like a teenage into early 20s superhero.
Yeah, just figuring out the world, and he's fucking figuring out that he's not normal.
Because I mean, in the originating Spider-Man, he was in high school. Tom Holland is the new Spider-Man.
Tom Holland.
Yeah.
And now in this new one, it's going to have Captain America and Tony Stark coming in. So there's a lot of like crossover into the Avengers type stuff.
Yeah. They introduced this new Spider-Man in I think it was
Civil War, I believe.
Yeah, Civil War. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I did not catch that.
They had all the memes of him stealing Captain America's shield and like, I am the captain now. So yeah, it's an exciting new future for media and movies and independent film.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I mean, these days out, anybody can pretty much pick up a camera and make a film. I mean, best thing you could do is just collaborate with some good people and get your friends involved or whoever you can, and just start putting stories together. It's not rocket science, really. It's not.
Yeah, just got to do it. Like you said, it's just that old Nike slogan.
Absolutely.
So we're excited to have you on. We're glad we got the chance to talk to you. Do you have anything that you want to plug in terms of Instagram, website, Facebook, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, sure. My production company is Studio House Pictures. It's plural, studiohousepictures.com. And it's the same with our Facebook, is facebook.com/studiohousepictures. And our Instagram is @studiohousepictures. And I'm David Melendez, and I produce and direct, and I collaborate with a team of some awesome guys that we get together and just make a bunch of indie films. And whenever we're able to get commercials and music videos and all kinds of stuff that really brings in some income, then we work on those as well. But really, our big passion is making short films and feature films. And right now we're making a feature film called Misty Blue Lane. It's a crime drama that takes place in Florida, and we're hoping to make a splash with it. We're hoping to get it released by sometime this fall. So keep fingers crossed.
Absolutely. So
Awesome.
everyone make sure you go follow on all the social medias and visit the website and send any work over to Studio House Pictures.
Yeah, that'll be great.
If you want to check out our Facebook or our Insta, just search American Slacker Podcast. If you want to check out our website, americanslackerpodcast.com. And send us an email at americanslackerpodcast@gmail.com.
You can find us on Twitter and Reddit at AMERSLKR Podcast. That's Amer Slacker Podcast. Rate and review us on iTunes, and please tell a friend. If they're not into podcasts, send them on over to the YouTube. We have our newest episodes always up there, including this bonus episode with David Melendez.
And if you want to hear any of the artists that we cover on American Slacker, all you have to do is go to Spotify and check out our playlist. All you have to do is search American Slacker Podcast.
Become a Patreon supporter of the show. We would love to have anything you're willing to give us. It gives you a lot of benefits, like a shout out on the show. You can ask us a question, and you get access to play Xbox with us at the fourth Saturday of every month.
Check us out on our personal Instagrams and our Snapchats. My Instagram is NWG Media, and my Snapchat is Matty G from HP. And you can check out my gamer tag, Matty G from HP, as well.
My personal Instagram, Snapchat, gamer tag, all that is Landers the Plane.
Thanks again, David, for being on.
Sure, man.
Well, I was going to say,
Pleasure to have you, man.
we always like to end the show with our little tagline. Is there any little thing that you want to end the show on? Like, do you have a slogan or anything? I guess just do it, maybe,
Yeah,
right?
just do it. I don't want to steal it from Nike now.
Nice. Well, it's now trademarked by David.
Yeah. Well, I always ask people, like, what's stopping you? So that's usually my first response to people that always ask, like, about indie film and all that. It's like, well, what's stopping you? If they tell me, like, I want to make films, like, well, what's stopping you?
All right, let's end it with that one. Matt's gonna do that's it. I'll say there you go. You give a what's stopping you.
Okay.
Sounds good to me. Well, until next time, people, we love all of you, and thanks for tuning in. And that's it.
There you go.
What's stopping you?